Well, it's time to take a look at the finale to the original Fullmetal Alchemist series.
I see it, and now it's all within my reach. I see it now. It's always been inside of me. And now I feel so free. And there's possibility. And there's possibility. And there's possibility. And there's possibility. And there's possibility.
Hello everyone, and today we're taking a look at Fullmetal Alchemist Conqueror Shamballa. Conqueror Shamballa is the sequel film to the original Fullmetal Alchemist 2003 series and is meant to be the finale to the anime. Now, before we take a look at Shamballa, there was one thing I forgot to discuss in my review of Fullmetal Alchemist 2003, and that being the opening theme songs. I like all of them. Well, the third one is probably my least favorite, but still, if you had to ask me what's my favorite out of all of them, in terms of music, I would go with Melissa, the first opening theme, but in terms of animation, that one goes to Rewrite, especially for that final battle at the end. But still, back on topic, let's talk about Shamballa. Shamballa takes place after the events of 03, where Edward is still in the real world, and during this time, it is around the time of the Nazi uprising. Yes, Nazis are in this movie, and this movie is responsible for anime Hitler being a real thing. I'm not even joking. And also around this time, Alphonse is recently getting back into alchemy and is trying to figure out a way to save his brother and get him back to their world. And also they find out that the Dual Society, aka the Nazi Party, is trying to take over Amestris by crossing over through the gate. And yeah, that's mostly what I'll say for the plot for right now, but don't worry, this will be a spoiler review, but hey, this movie is over 10 years old. I think it's safe to talk about spoilers. Now, in terms of the things I really liked about this movie, I really liked the color difference between the real world and Amestris. I like how in the real world, the colors are a bit dark and grim, almost like a Zack Snyder movie, except the characters actually smile. And while in Amestris, the animation is more vibrant and more happy-go-lucky, which I think is a nice contrast between the two. Also, one thing I love about this movie is how they play around with alternate universe versions of some of the characters from 03. I love that idea of doing alternate universe versions of characters, and especially what they did here, mainly with what they did with the alternate universe versions of Maze Hughes and Bradley. I mean, they did do this for other characters like Alphonse, Gracia, Noah, and Lyra, but I think it was mostly really well done with just Maze Hughes and Bradley, because in the anime, Maze Hughes is that type of guy you would want to hang out with. He seems like the perfect best friend to hang out with, and he's just, even though he's an overprotective parent, especially in Brotherhood, you still like the guy. He's still very happy and upbeat. But in here, he's a Nazi soldier, and he comes off as a jerk, and it's a nice contrast showing us what would happen if Maze Hughes was a jerk in the anime. And I also love what they did with Bradley, where in his alternate universe version, he's Fritz Lang, a Jewish film director, and I really like it because in the anime, Bradley was one of the homunculi, Pride, and he was a very mean, cold, calculated homunculus. But in the movie, he's kind of cheerful and personally kind of funny. I especially love when Edward first meets him. He thinks it's actually Bradley crossed through the gate and thinks that Roy failed. And he tells him, hey, open your eyes so I can see what's under it. And he does this. I like that. It's pretty funny. But when it comes to the other alternate universe versions of characters, with Gracia, she basically stayed the same, except she had a bit of a trouble with Maze Hughes, since, you know, in this movie, Maze is kind of racist towards gypsies. There's also the alternate universe version of Rose, who's Noah, and I'm confused. How does she have psychic powers? This is supposed to be the real world, where stuff like alchemy doesn't exist. That just confuses me. And Alphonse Heydrich kind of wasted potential, in my opinion. I think they could have done a lot better with him. Like, have Edward get more attached to Alphonse Heydrich, so it makes more conflict for when the real Alphonse from the anime shows up. And then there's Lyra. Lyra is just a joke in this movie. She only shows up for a 2-second cameo, where in the anime, before Dante body snatched her, she was a kind alchemist, when here she's just a waitress, and there's actually a funny moment where Edward's all like, it's Dante, and then Lyra's like, I like that. I like that. It was pretty funny. I also think the voice acting is really great, and I also like what they did with some of the characters, like Wrath, because in 2003, Wrath was the child. He was basically he was a big old mama's boy, and he always wanted to see his mama through the bitter end. But here, he's actually really dang awesome. In the anime, he was just kind of annoying, especially around the end of the series. I get if you want to see your mama, but still, you're as much as a mama's boy as Steppenwolf from Justice League. And there is just one awesome action scene that he's in where he faces Gluttony along with Alphonse. Like, Alphonse and Wrath are teaming up against Gluttony. And it's the only time Wrath is actually cool. But compared to Brotherhood Wrath, Wrath in 03 isn't as awesome as Brotherhood Wrath. Am I right, Bradley?
What? Impossible!
And one last positive I have for this movie in terms of right now is that I do like what they did with Roy Mustang in this film. Because at the end of 03, you might think, oh, he defeated Bradley and he's going to become the Fear of Amestris. Well, in this movie, he isn't. He goes to Fort Briggs, which is more expanded upon more in the Brotherhood anime. But still, I also do like how they handle it. Where you see, Roy got an eye patch from the battle where he lost one of his eyes. I'm confused on how, because in the fight we don't see Bradley swiping his sword at his eyeball. I guess he got it from the fire, but still, I like how he explains to Havoc and Breda that whenever he uses flame alchemy again, the eye that's covered by the eye patch only sees the horrific things he did during Ishval. I like that. It's actually very good for his character, and I also like the theming of the fire that he had was, lit out when he went to Fort Briggs, the snow calming the flame. I like that. But there we go. That's all my positives. Time to get on to the negatives of this film. And one major issue I have with this movie is the main villain, Eckhart. She is so bland, so forgettable. I'm just... Really, this is the most generic villain ever. You want to know her plan? She wants to destroy Shamballa, aka Amestris, because she's worried it might destroy the human world, the real world. Even though she's only been there for 2 seconds, and she was the one who attacked first. I mean, they're basically defending their home territory at this point, and she's all like, oh, we must destroy this land before they destroy ours. Lady, I know I just said this already, but you just attacked them. They're defending their homes. It's self-defense, you moron. And she could have been replaced by 2 other characters. Like, for example, at the start of the movie, they do this flashback that wasn't in the anime with this guy building an atomic bomb because he was jealous that, oh, alchemy is taking over and wants things to go back to the way they were. And they show at the end of that scene that he's going through the gate, and I'm like, okay, he could be a good villain. He wants to show that old ways, old ideas are better than alchemy. That's actually a very interesting villain. But no, he's just there to get newcomers into this movie, and I'm like, why? I get that the director of this film wanted this series to be, this movie to be the finale to 03, but also wanted this to be something for newcomers. I'm sorry, but those 2 things don't mesh well, because, like I said earlier, this is supposed to be the finale to 2003. You can't also just say, oh yeah, this movie's also for newcomers, because this movie has a lot of things that are unexplained to the normal viewer, like Azumi Curtis, the homunculi, and other things, and why Edward's through the gate. You can't just say, oh, this is for newcomers. And then, of course, there's the villain that should have been the main antagonist, Envy. I forgot to talk about him in my 03 video, but now we're going to talk about him since he's very important to one of my issues with this film. He should have been the main antagonist for this movie, because think about it, in 03 they established that homunculi were once humans that were failed human transmutations, and Envy was the failed human transmutation of Hohenheim, because Envy was the original son of Hohenheim and was jealous that Hohenheim decided to ditch Envy after Envy became a monster due to the failed human transmutation. And he actually has a lot of understandable hatred towards Edward, Alphonse, and Hohenheim. And at the end of the show, we see him traveling through the gate to get his revenge on Hohenheim. Too bad he's just here for like 5 seconds. No, I'm not even joking, he's just here for like 5 minutes. And Hohenheim, okay, I get what they're trying to do with Hohenheim. They're trying to make him repent his sins. That's why he wants Envy to kill him, because, Envy was his original son, and he feels like he's the cause for all this. But we should have seen more of Hohenheim and the dynamic between him and Edward, how they've grown and how they became more friendly towards one another. Since at the end of 03, we see Edward slowly warming up to the guy. But no, he just dies right as he's introduced. And it's so bad because he tells Edward, I want you to go back to your home where you belong. And it never happens. And it's sad. And also, Alphonse Heydrich, he also dies saying, Edward, you should go back to where you belong to in your world. Two characters die telling Edward to go back to his world, and Edward doesn't carry out the deed. And let's talk about that scene. Now, I can understand Edward's reasoning here. He basically says, hey, Alphonse, you and Roy got it covered on Amestris. I'll stay on the real world to keep it safe there. I understand that. Too bad it gets ruined 5 seconds later when Alphonse miraculously shows up behind Edward. I'm not even joking. It is such a plot. Like, seriously, they show us 5 seconds ago that Roy was holding him back, but he just shows up behind Edward without Edward even noticing. What, does he have Sloth's super speed from Brotherhood? Because there's no way he could have done that in 5 seconds. And heck, it's such a big plot hole that even the Japanese voice actors point out how stupid it was. And yeah, there is one other thing I do like about this movie when it comes to alternate universes. At the end of the film, they show Ad and Alphonse, walking around the dirt road, and they see a truck, and they're like, wait, what? And the camera turns around, and we see the alternate versions of Lust and Scar. I like that. It's actually a very cute joke. But still, that's what I can say about Fullmetal Alchemist Conqueror Shamballa. It's just above average, in my opinion. It's good. I mean, it's the only movie out of the 3 FMA movies that have been made, it's the only one I can classify as good. But saying you're the best FMA movie, especially compared to the piles of crap that are Sacred Star of Milos and the live-action movie, it's like saying you're the best movie in the Transformers movies. Well, in live-action anyway. Sure, that's good, but compared to your competition, that's not saying much. Now, if I were to give this movie a rating, I would give it probably a 7 out of 10. It's just good for what it is. It's actually pretty fun. I also do like what they did with Edward and Fritz Lang, but a lot of this stuff I feel like were missed opportunities, and yeah, it's just good. Now, I would review Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood next, but since Disney decided that for the final episode of Star Wars The Clone Wars to be released on May the 4th, on Monday, you, instead of getting the FMA Brotherhood review, you will get a review of Star Wars The Clone Wars. So that's what I'm going to do on Monday. On Monday, we're taking a look at the Season 7, the final season of Star Wars The Clone Wars. So see you then, and after that, we'll take a look at FMA Brotherhood. So see you all later, and have a good day. Bye. And Conqueror Shamballa gets a 7 out of 10. See you all later, and have a good day. Bye.